Okay, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the oxygen and acetylene tanks to the right pressures for the working pressures that we're going to have for the project we're doing in class. So we're doing brazing. The oxygen acetylene torch is also used for welding applications and cutting applications, which neither of those we'll be doing in here because we have a plasma cutter that we're doing our cutting with, and we have a MIG welder and a stick welder that we'll be doing our welding with. So it's kind of like an older art because there is so many better options nowadays. So first off is we have an acetylene tank, which is the smaller tank here, and we have the oxygen tank, which is the larger one. On the left side of each of these is going to be our PSI, which tells us how much pressure is in the tank, and the left one and the right one is going to be telling us how much volume is in the tank. Okay, so let's look at these. When I turn on the gas, and so when I turn it on, I want to make sure that all the hoses are attached, and that at the handle here of my torch, I have these valves closed. Otherwise, it's just going to be leaking out the end of this when I turn it on. I can turn it on right here, which means I've opened up the tank, and you can see that I'm very low with my acetylene, how much is in here, and my oxygen. Turn that on also. I'm also very low there. I have new tanks that I'll put in here, but I'm hoping to get through this demonstration here with the gases that we have on hand. It may happen that I get partially through it and then I have to go ahead and change the tanks. So we'll see what we get done here. Well, if you want to, and this is something that I was shown by my grandfather years ago, if you detect any kind of leak, a good way of figuring out if you actually have a leak is where you have the connection here to the tank, to the regulator. If I brush that with soapy water here around the connection there, I'm going to learn pretty quickly if I have a leak, because you're going to see it bubbling and starting to get active in that area. This is the same thing that was done if you have a propane tank on a gas grill at home, and you set it up and you're not sure if you have it set up correctly. Once you have these tanks open and there's pressure there, if there's any problem going on, you'll see that pretty easily. Okay. I also could do that at these valves, even up here if I chose to. Okay. All right. So now I want to get the pressure that I need to be working with on these, and that's the left side here. So let's look at the left one. We'll get the acetylene going first. So this is my regulator, and this is going to be dialed in, and it causes like a bulb on the inside, a bulge, which is going to increase the pressure as the air travels across it. Okay, so I'll open it up, and there's no pressure there, and as I start dialing that in, you'll see that number start to rise, and I'm seeing that when I did that, my pressure dropped to 0, and I'm not able to. I have this dialed in almost all the way. I'm never getting up to 5. I mean, I can feel acetylene coming out of this, but I'm not up to 5. So what that tells me is that this tank has to be swapped out. I have to get a new tank on this. Let's do the oxygen one. I have that open, and I'll open my oxygen here. So now, if I start dialing in on that, I don't feel any oxygen coming out of this yet, but as I dial in on it, we'll see the pressure start to rise, and we start to hear the oxygen coming out. I want to get this so when it's working, it's sitting at 20 psi. So at 20 psi, I'll close that, and it may climb a little bit, but whenever I open it up, it's going to drop right to that 20 each time. It might build, and then it drops to that 20. I'll give it a little bit more there, so that I have 20 psi on the oxygen. So this one looks like I have enough to go ahead and complete what I want to do. So I'm not going to swap out my oxygen, but I am going to swap out my acetylene. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to change that up, and we'll go ahead and set that one up.